Good evening. Welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom on the programme tonight. The latest that we are picking up on the horrific death of 4 Jawans at the military station in Bathinda in Punjab. 4 Jawans, all about 24, 25 years of age, brutally gunned down apparently when they were asleep in the early hours of this morning. 17 odd hours later, we still don't know who was responsible. A few questions that remained unanswered. Number one, did army soldiers attack fellow soldiers? In other words, was this an incident of fratricide? Number two, were external elements involved in this? Right? Were external elements, in other words, did somebody get into that military station? Not a cantonment, it's a large military station, and were they involved in these murders? Or, significantly, is there a terror connection? The reason we are asking these questions is because even now, 17 hours later, the army has still not been able to tell us whether they have a fix on who was responsible, and that raises all of these questions. We've got a fantastic panel of experts throughout this half an hour. We've got General D.S. Huda, the former Northern Army Commander. We've got General S.L. Narasimhan, former member of the National Security Advisory Board. We've got General Sanjay Meston, as well as the former Director General of Police in Punjab, Rajinder Singh. But I'd like to go first to General Huda. Sir, your initial thoughts at this very tragic incident.
So Vishnu, as you said, it's a huge tragedy, and I'm saying it's a huge tragedy for the army because the normal ethos in the military is that soldiers give their lives to protect their comrades. And to me, and I'm not jumping the gun here, to me it certainly appears that it's possibly something that's happened within the unit. Mm-hmm. Because the weapon has gone missing from the unit 2 days earlier. The same weapon has been used, for killing these 4 Jawans.
General, that's the one part which I'm slightly confused about, because they say that there is a forensic examination of that weapon which has now been recovered. Now, as I understand it, all weapons, and correct me if I'm wrong, would have a serial number. So if it was the same weapon, then in the last army statement they would say, no, we found the weapon. But they're saying there's a forensic examination of that. So that I find raises more questions.
No, Vishnu, so from what I know, the weapon is the same. Okay. They've recovered the fired cases. The fired cases are the same ammunition that was stolen along with the weapon. I think the reason why they're saying the forensic examination is necessary is because they will look at the fingerprints and what else is there on the weapon.
Right.
It's clear that the weapon is the same that was stolen, and the ammunition that was used is also the same that was stolen along with the weapon.
But General, continue with your thoughts. You mentioned that there is a possibility of it being the same unit which is involved. Now, if that is the case, then obviously fratricide, it's a serious concern for not just the Army, Air Force, Navy, but also our police forces of late. What are some of the factors that go into something like this?
So, issue why I'm saying that is, to me it seems implausible that somebody from outside will come, steal a weapon, go outside again, come back again to the same unit and in the same area do something. Why do fratricide occur? I wish we could pinpoint a single sort of reason for it, Vishnu, which would enable us to find a solution to this. There are personal issues of how an individual looks at his own stress that he's under, personal pressure, financial pressure. Obviously, there could be leadership lapses that lead to this. So there are, I think, multiple reasons. We wish these things don't happen. Unfortunately, sometimes they do. And there's a huge effort to ensure that these things are minimized and they don't occur.
All right. I'm just going to read the latest statement by the Army. A search team has located, as the General was mentioning, the INSAS rifle along with the magazine. Army and police joint teams will now be undertaking forensic analysis of the weapon for ascertaining further details. A balanced number of rounds in the weapon will only be available after forensic analysis. The joint investigation with the Punjab police is in progress. All possible assistance is being provided. It is reiterated that no individual has been detained or apprehended. And of course then the army is telling all of us to be careful. It's a sensitive story and we are being careful. Now General, 17 odd hours later, the fact that no individual has been detained, you would have been to the military station Bathinda, I'm sure, sir. Could you just tell us, is it a very large station? Is the possibility of people sort of slipping in and out, I mean, is it possible at all?
No, so it's one of the largest military stations in Asia. But for outsiders to slip in and out, really, I mean, I would think is difficult because the way the security is. And frankly, Vishnu, for somebody to slip in from outside, take the weapon, go back outside, slip back into the same unit, I mean, to me, it looks like an implausible story. We don't know. I don't want to jump the gun. We don't know. It could well have happened, but to me, the chances of this happening are very remote.
General Huda, the fact that all these hours later, the army has still not been able to come out and say that no, I mean, this is likely to have been one of ours, one of our own soldiers. I think that raises a lot of questions because there's obviously a head count which is done in a situation like this, possibly even instantly. So the army would immediately know if any of their own are missing. In other words, people on the run. But to that question, and very pointedly, there is still no answer. No, we are looking at it. So does that not raise more questions?
No. So Vishnu, there is nobody who's on the run. The unit says everyone is accounted for. Obviously, the weapon has been thrown away and sort of recovered now. I think it's just how should I put it? So it's not like a typical sort of fratricide where in a burst of emotion you do something. It's obviously something that has been planned because the weapon has been taken away 2 days earlier, stolen, and then used, in a case of murder, let me put it bluntly, 2 days later. Obviously there has been a level of planning that has gone into it. So I don't think we should confuse it with a typical case of fratricide.
Yeah. And a typical case of fratricide, General, as we've seen, again in the police forces and also in the armed forces, is when a soldier turns a gun not just on brother soldiers, but then ends up killing himself. And that's obviously not the case over here. But
absolutely.
General, I'm just trying to understand, again, is it your understanding that everybody has been accounted for? In other words, the army knows that those who are involved are their own?
It's possible, Vishnu. So again, I'm saying there's an investigation going on. But if you ask me from my sort of experience of having served so many years in the army, having looked at how garrison security is organized, having looked at everything, I would, and maybe I'm going out on a limb here, Vishnu. I would sort of say more possibly is sort of an insider thing. Unfortunate as it may sound, but that's where the possibility is. I don't see a terror link or anything. I don't know if you're aware that the unit that's involved is a unit which has soldiers from South India.
Yes.
So if it was soldiers from say Punjab or something, you could possibly also look at that sort of link. I don't think that link is there at all.
So besides obviously the murders themselves, the deaths, General, it's what you alluded to, the planning, that this was a weapon which was stolen, a weapon which was evidently used, more than one person. There appear to be two people involved in this, which again raises questions by itself. And the fact that these individuals are on the run, they've not been caught as yet. It was very deeply planned. some would suggest, you would suggest, right, General?
I would Vishnu, the kind of the manner in which it's got executed. I mean, if you ask me frankly, if I was the commanding officer and the weapon has been stolen from my unit and it's gone missing, the first thing I would think is, look, somebody has stolen it for, selling it to somebody for doing something. For 2 days it's missing. To think that it would be used for planning such an event I haven't seen in my 40 years a similar situation like this. So while we can, post-mortem this whole thing, we can look at it and see what lapses had occurred. But honestly, I have not seen an incident like this. My first reaction would have been, and we've seen weapons have been stolen from units, weapons have gone missing. Most of them have either the person along with that has gone missing, or these weapons have been, passed off to somebody or given to somebody. I haven't seen an incident like this, Vishnu. So, which is why I'm saying, maybe I would also have not thought at all that such an action could happen with a stolen weapon.
Yeah. General, thanks very much for being with us. You are, of course, welcome to remain on the program. We're joined by somebody you know very well, General S.L. Narasimhan with us. We're also joined by General Sanjay Meston. General Narasimhan, again, your thoughts. You heard what General Huda had to say. He's not seen something like this in 40 years. There's nothing called a normal fratricide or a standard fratricide, but in terms of the events as we know it, how do you believe, General Narasimhan, that the events are somewhat different from what we've seen in the past?
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu, for having me on this show, and I generally agree with what General Huda had said. The difference that has happened here, generally what happens is in such cases, either the individual has gone along with the weapon somewhere, and the reaction of the unit generally is to locate that weapon first, and then carry out the rest of the investigations and things like that. And in this case, the weapon has been probably stolen a couple of days ago, and then this act has been committed. And the unit is also seems to be saying, as General Huda mentioned, that all people have been accounted for. So this is something which seems to be a little different than what other fratricide cases that we have seen. And in any case, as you said, after 17 hours, you are saying that the unit has not been able to find out who did it. But I think that the investigation is now becoming joint along with the police. And the weapon that has been given for forensic testing is not because of the identification of the weapon with the number, but to see whether the bullets that were fired to kill these people are fired from that same weapon or not. That is a thing which the joint investigation will probably will reveal. And in any case, these things may take some time, but I am sure the truth will come out and the culprits will be nabbed. And this is a sad thing that has happened in a unit, because as a commanding officer, to lose men is the biggest sad thing that could happen to a commanding officer. And to reveal that to the deceased family is going to be a very, very heavy burden on that CO. So I really, my sympathies are with them. But I am sure the truth will come out in due course of time.
General Narasimhan, when you say that the unit seems to have suggested that all soldiers have been accounted for, what do you mean by that? Do you mean that they know who is missing, or do they have all their soldiers on board and those who are responsible for this is somebody else from outside that unit?
No, when I said that they are accounted for, like General Huda mentioned, what happens in such cases is there's something known as the roll call that is done immediately after this to check whether who is where and things like that. And you know who all are present in the unit, that you keep a tally, and then you check with people who have gone on temporary duty courses plus the leave and etc., and then account for everything. So that is the way the accounting is done in a unit. I'm sure, like all units do it, I'm sure this unit also must have done the same. And that is how they have come to the conclusion that probably nobody is missing.
All right. Rajinder Singh, former Director General of Police Punjab, joins us. Mr. Singh, this is such a tragic episode, a tragic incident. What role does the police have, sir, in investigating this, along obviously with the army?
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, let me express my sadness over the incident. It is quite painful to bear with, having lost 4 army men. Incidentally, I was district SP of Bathinda in 91. Also IG Bathinda in 2004 and 5. So we have been interacting with army officers. Such incident, we should not jump about the conclusion. We should wait for the investigation to take place. And I am 100% sure that this investigation will be complete very soon. Within 15 days, 20 days, we will be able to say something about it.
Mr. Singh, I'm just trying to understand your preliminary thoughts. Based on the FIR, what we do know is that there were 2 attackers, not 1. Secondly, a gun obviously was used. That gun has been recovered. We don't know if there was more than 1 weapon. Presumably there wasn't. But the FIR says that one of the men actually had an axe with him as well. And now these attackers are missing. This shows a fairly high level of planning, right, of motive. It wasn't clearly a spur of the moment sort of thing. I don't know if you agree with me. These are my thoughts. What are your thoughts, Mr. Singh?
The investigation can reveal anything. That is why I'm saying we should not jump to any conclusion. We should wait for a few days. All these details will be checked and cross-checked. And also we will be able to establish the truth.
Yeah.
The Punjab Police has been very highly successful in handling such sensational cases in almost all types of cases. So I don't think there's any problem in know about it. Only thing is that this has happened now, which is painful to bear with.
Yeah.
And we must be alerted that such things should not be allowed to happen again.
Yeah. General Meston, I think a point which is important for our viewers to know, that even if it's a military cantonment or a military station as this is, weapons aren't available everywhere. Not all soldiers are carrying weapons. There is an armory which is there. Every single round and every single magazine is accounted for. Even if a gun is given to a guard or on guard duty, it is accounted for, it has to be returned. Therefore, this is obviously something that the army would be looking at. How did this gun get stolen? It's happened obviously in the past, but this is the last thing that any army unit wants, a gun missing, an automatic weapon.
Vishnu, good evening. A very important issue you have raised. Firstly, it's very, very clear that the unit weapons are stored in a thing known as coat. And the procedure is, firstly, all weapons have a registered number, and each individual in the regiment, including officers, weapons are allotted on their name, and if he has to draw a weapon, he has to have the authority letter of an officer to draw out a weapon. However, there are 2 very sensitive places in any regiment, unit, where the weapons are always kept. One is the quarter guard, and the second is the battalion magazine. Now, battalion magazine is the place where the the ammunition is stored. Now, these places, the weapons are continuously allotted to a team, and the weapon is handed over to the next person on duty. So, my assessment is, and I do agree with the former DGP, that we should not, come on to an outcome, but definitely as analysts, our job is also to do some kind of a assessment. Now, my assessment is that probably this man, I agree with both the generals, it has to be an insider hand. Now, why? Firstly, weapon going out, I perceive it could be from these 2 places, from the battalion magazine or the quarter guard. And as on date, there are certain other places where a unit decides they can have some kind of, guards with weapons. But most likely it is in these 2 places. Now, this man has planned, conceived the operation extremely well. Therefore, his aim was to get a weapon. Now, to get a weapon, he has obviously gone to these sensitive places. And during night, sometimes it happens, a soldier who's on duty, he has a wink. He just has a small sleep, and he has taken the weapon or defriended someone, and during the course of conversation quietly has lifted the weapon. That is, he has achieved his aim. Thereafter, what he's done, he's hidden the weapon very carefully. So he knew that the unit will now be conducting searches, so he's hidden the weapon. And obviously the unit would be now trying to ascertain where is the weapon gone, because that is the foremost concern which has been already discussed. Now, since the weapon was not found, obviously it could go outside, it could be within. Therefore, what this man has done, he has looked at the opportune time, and probably in the early morning he saw these chaps sleeping, and therefore he has knocked them out. Now, why I am saying it is an internal hand? Firstly, the weapon has gone missing from the unit. Obviously, no outsider can come and take it. Number two, the man has been seen in some kurta pajama. So what he has done, he has concealed his identity. He has, at the appropriate time, taken out the weapon where he had hidden, fired them, and then he has left it at some place and then merged back into the system by putting on his uniform back. So my feeling is that now why it has been done, obviously it is a case of revenge. Either these four, why he's targeted the people in the officers' mess, some kind of a rivalry would have been there, or blackmailing, that will come out.
Sure.
And my assessment, Vishnu, is that the forensic experts know what they are talking. The fingerprints of the weapon would be taken. Tracker dog would have been used by now to track out what route this person has taken. So I have a feeling the unit would have already, or the investigation team would have already narrowed down to some people. And I think within a day or two, it is possible that the man will be confronted with a lot of evidence, and he may finally, I know soldiers, when pressure is put and when he is confronted with evidence and senior officers are, there, he will own up. So I think in due course of time, it is likely to happen that the man will be caught. Now, why is he done? Could be a lot of things. So apparently it appears to be a fratricide case. But from where the weapon would have gone missing, I have given you the likely sequence of events.
General Narasimhan, there's also obviously the entire issue of leadership within that unit. And leadership doesn't just come from officers. Leadership comes from Jawans, from soldiers, from leaders like Subedar Major, etc., etc. How does this entire episode raise a lot of questions on leadership at whichever level you're talking about within the unit? Because the unit operates as a family. For something like this to have taken place, your thoughts on that, on this line of.
See, again, I don't want to prejudge anything on this, because it could be simply a case of personal vendetta on the people whom they were fired. But what I would say is, there must have some system should be in place. Generally, in most of the units, it is there. I'm not sure whether this unit had this or not. There is a buddy system that works in the units. Like, for example, if a soldier is under stress, his buddy will know that, he's under stress, he has got some family issues, etc., and then therefore that system works in some form. So the issue that comes up is, I'm not sure whether that system was followed in this unit, but I don't want to prejudge anything on the leadership part. Because this could have been, spur of the moment, something could have happened between the men, something could have triggered this in a man to take revenge on somebody. So there may be any kind of reasons could be for this. Leadership position could be one, but more likely I would say it looks like a case of personal enmity and a stress somewhere working. I don't think we should place the blame on the leadership, etc., because we don't know. Unless the investigations bring out all these aspects, I think we should not prejudge this.
All right, General, thank you very much, General Narasimhan, General Meston, and Mr. Singh for being with us. We are out of time. Just in case our viewers are tuning in, it is a very sad story. 4 Indian Army soldiers killed. They were likely asleep. 4:30 a.m. this morning. There is a strong possibility of fratricide when soldiers from the same unit potentially turn their weapon on their own brother soldiers. That's something that's not been ruled out. But a lot of questions continue to be asked, and perhaps rightly so, because the army has not confirmed the identity of the men who they believe were involved in this. But I think the key point that emerged out of this discussion with these rail experts is that the unit in question appears to have accounted for all of their soldiers. So that being the case, perhaps the killer or the killers are very much there, and the unit will be questioned, and perhaps those responsible for this will be found. Very sad day for the Indian Army, a very sad day for all of us in India. We'll take a short break, more coming up.